What is going on, guys? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide, coming to you live from the 10th annual Fun and Sun Boat and Tackle Show. This is a great event every year. Some of the biggest names in the industry come here, some of my personal heroes. The Hack Attack's in there talking right now to these people. We're going to go listen to him for a little bit today. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, not our normally seminar episode. You're going to get to hear a short seminar I did last night. You're going to get to hear a clip from Greg Hackney. We're also going to talk to the man who runs the show over here, Mr. Monty, is going to talk to us about this event and kind of tell you guys what's going on, what you can expect if you get to come here. By the time you've seen this video, this event will be over, but they have it every year, and I highly suggest coming out to the Fun and Sun Boat and Tackle Show every January. It is an absolute blast. Let's get y'all inside and show you what's going down.
A little finesse tactic.
Well, fancy with the equipment that I'm used to. Hey man, my name's Billy Walton. I'm a guy on Lake Fork, just like the last time you guys were talking to, and also got a lot of other lakes. And I also make a lot of social media content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And for you younger guys, you can even find me on TikTok, and I know that's weird, but you can. Hey, you know Joe?
Hey, my God.
This is an East Texas guy over here. He knows a fellow friend of mine. One thing that I want to talk about, by the way, I love questions. My favorite part of doing these, we do seminars like this every 2 weeks out at Lake Fork. At Lake Fork Marina, actually, every other Friday evening at 6 p.m. So 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing one there. If you're in Lake Fork, you can come see us. My favorite part is answering your questions, because the most important thing for me is I'm very, very thankful that I get to go out and do what I love for a living every day, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity that you guys give me. So I want to answer your questions. Whatever you want to know is what I want to help you with the best I can. But one thing I wanted to touch on tonight is a big misconception this time of year, especially in this region, East Texas, Northeast Texas, this general region. And it will vary some from lake to lake. Some of the deeper lakes here in Fort Worth area, it doesn't happen quite as soon, but especially as you start traveling east and you get over towards LaVaughn and Hubbard and all these Northeast Texas lakes and the deep East Texas lakes. This is a really big misconception. People think in January you need to be fishing a little bit deeper water, mid-depth or deeper water. It's just not the case. If you think about it like this, every year on these flatter, shallower lakes like Lake Fork and other lakes around here, fish will start spawning around Valentine's Day every year. It happens. We always see the first few stragglers, the first little small wave coming in Valentine's Day. If that is when they start spawning, then that means we are in full go middle of the pre-spawn as soon as January hits, because the pre-spawn situation takes time to develop and time to process. So don't think that you need to be fishing. You can catch really big fish in the dirt right now, like in this much water, especially like this week. We had a really warm night, an extremely warm night, and that's how you know when it's really time to get back there real far. It's not, everybody sees, well, it was 75 today, and they're like, well, the water's going to warm up. No, because it was 35 at night. So the water temps just kind of do an up and down evolution. They don't ever climb and keep climbing. Even if you have a 70-degree day, if you have a 65-degree night and the water temp is in the lower 50s, well, that water's going to climb during the day. It's going to maintain or slightly climb at night, and then the next day it's going to climb even more. So now you, instead of doing this, you've really made some ground up in your water temperature. And that is really going to key the bait first to push back, and the bass that are in pre-spawn mode are trying to eat as much food as they can. Anybody ever had a pregnant wife?
Yep.
You ever watched her eat?
Yep.
They finna get after it, Jack, and so are all these female bass right now. They getting after it on the eating. So I just wanted to talk tonight about, just real brief because we don't have a whole lot of time left, but you can fish extremely shallow in January and February and catch really big fish. Some of the biggest bags you'll ever catch of your life. Our day, after that warm night the other night, we had an unbelievable day. Best day I've had in quite some time, really. We fished for 6 hours that day, and we caught 50-something fish. And we had, I can't tell how many we had, over 4 or 5 pounds, just a bunch. We didn't catch any sure enough freak 9-10 pounders, but we caught a lot of really fun fish to catch. And so anytime you can do something like that, it was an unbelievable day. You wouldn't think that you would go back there in January and catch 50 plus fish in 6 hours and catch them on moving baits, like chatterbaits, swim baits, stuff like that, and that's how we were catching them. So tons of fun to be had. There's a lot of people that miss that bite. I see a lot of people that don't ever get far enough back this time of year. Like I said, any questions anytime, let me know. So I'm going to go into just a couple baits, and we'll try to keep it on time here for Mr. Monty. Also want to take time to thank Fun and Sun for allowing me to do this. I've watched people, some of my heroes in the sport on this stage, so for me to be standing on the stage is pretty cool. It's a pretty cool deal for me. Yes, sir.
I want to know where you got your shoes.
These are if you look at them real close, of course we got red, white, and blue, these colors on them, and then there's some war fighters down there on the shoes. And I actually ordered these, a Facebook ad got me. But these are the terrorist stompers, so if there's any terrorists in the building, come get kicked in the face, you know what I'm saying?
Amen.
Yeah, so baits that you can use. Even though I'm talking about fish getting shallow and getting active, I will say the water temps are still cold. The water temps we were fishing the other day on that warming trend that we really caught them was anywhere between 56 to 59 degrees. And in the afternoon we did see some 60, 61. But we did most of our damage. We started off catching real good in the morning in 56, 57, 58 degree water. So that's still cold water. Like it's not just 70 degree water where the fish are just like chewing everything you throw at them. That being said, I still do like to go with baits that will cause a fish to react. When a fish is not wanting to bite, so when water temps are colder and the fish is not necessarily just super active wanting to bite, there's two ways to catch them. You can go finesse or you can go reaction. I live in East Texas and I stay east and further east from Fort a lot. I fish a lot of shallow water fisheries with a lot of heavy cover, a little bit more stained water than you'll get at, say, a Ray Roberts or something over here. So I choose to go more of the reaction deal. Plus, that's how I like to fish. I would much rather power fish than slow down. That's my deal. So what you can do is go reaction, and the best bait, maybe the best bait to me, two of them that I'll talk about. First one is a chatterbait. Everybody, if you don't know about the chatterbait over the last 8, 9, 10 years, like you've been kind of sleeping a little bit, because chatterbait's unbelievable in the vibration and the way it causes fish to react. But another one that's really good that I think gets looked over in the cold time of year because it has such an aggressive action is a crankbait called a Movement 80X from 6 Sense Fishing. And it has the widest wobble of any shallow diving crankbait you'll find on the market. And I think people see that and think, okay, we need to fish that hard wobbling bait later in the year when fish are more aggressive. Not the case. That hard wobbling bait will make a sluggish fish react better than a regular square bill that has a tighter wiggle, in my opinion. And the big deal about the 6 Sense Movement 80X, if you go, they got some over there in the tackle store, if you look at it, the bill is wider than the nose. Does that make sense? Okay. So when that head is shaking, that bill is sticking out way further than the head of the bait is. So as you come up to a stump, that bill is swinging so hard it hits that stump, it bounces off harder. There's more violent deflecting qualities than any other crankbait I've ever thrown. And so I try to, especially if I'm around a lot of wood or brush or some type of hardcover rock, if you guys are fishing Hubbard or some Ray Roberts rock, right? This bait is phenomenal in the wintertime. As long as the fish are pushing shallow like they do when you get a warming trend, this bait's unbelievable because it bounces so hard and has such a big deflection, it just causes these big, violent reactions from these bigger, dominant bass. So, any questions? We got 8 minutes. Yes, sir.
What color is your dress?
Okay. Again, we're going to go misconception a little bit, okay? Because there is a little bit of misconception in that. And Miss Craig, for those that couldn't hear, asked what color is the best in the stained water? Because in the wintertime the water tends to be dirtier than it is the rest of the year. Especially like lately, we've been getting lots of rain. So a lot of our water in these backs of these creeks is going to be like so dirty, you might look at it and go, maybe we shouldn't fish it. That's another misconception, like fishing. That dirty water this time of year is a good thing, especially on a warming trend. That dirt content in the water actually helps that water warm faster. The dirtier the water, the faster it's going to warm, especially the calm, dirty water. The stuff you normally go in January, I'm getting away from cold, I'm getting away from dirty, calm water in January. Well, if you're on a warming trend, you need to go too. It warms faster than everything else. The color now, this is something that I've talked about with a couple of guide buddies of mine over the year, and kind of a synopsis or theory that I've come to, and so some of them. You know, we like to throw chartreuses and reds and stuff like that in dirty water. And I'm not saying that won't work. Like, we certainly catch our fair share of fish on a red or orange crawfish colored shallow diving crankbait. That does happen. But one thing that I thought about was, if you look at a shad or you look at a bass, think about a bass that lives in muddy water. What color is that bass?
It's dark.
They start turning whitish. They get pale. Well, the shad get even more pale as well. So my number one color in dirty water in the pre-spawn is white. White chatterbait. And I'm not talking about like a little gray shad. I'm talking about white. And even on the crankbait, on the shad patterns, I'm not going to a gray or a silver or a blueback. I'm looking for the whitest crankbait that I can find. The brightest white I can find. because all those bait fish get extremely pale in that cold, dirty water. And it's worked well for me, so. You like that? Good deal. Hey, I give a shout out. I've got I know we were talking about swim baits a minute ago in Lake Fork. And the biggest swim bait catch over the last few years is sitting in the house, and it's the youngest guy in the crowd. He's right here. He caught a 12-pound, 2-ounce bass with me 2 years ago on a big swim bait out of Fork. So that stuff James talking about, it's real, it works. That's my little buddy brother. He's a really good young man. So, all right, what else? That guy, the short one with the floppy hair. It's like my kids got floppy hair. Yes, sir.
What are the areas that you'd be targeting right now?
Great question, and that is something I wanted to cover tonight. And we've just got a few minutes left, and I'm going to try and cover it as good as I can for you, because that's an in-depth question. He asked, what areas are we looking for? So I'm going to try and make this general and give you guys the fast, shortcut version of this. You want to find the flattest ground. The deal is, if you have less volume of water, it's going to be able to warm a lot quicker. So if you have a creek that's kind of narrow and has steep banks and it carries the depth further back in the creek, that's going to be more total volume of water. So it's going to take longer. The deeper the water, the longer it's going to take for it to warm up. The big, broad bay type of creeks, the big, flat, expansive, wide type of coves, that is going to be a bigger expanse of shallow water that's like this deep. And the more of this that you have, like acres and acres and acres, the faster it will warm up. The other key is if it is in the northwest corner. So like who's been to Lake Fork? Several. Most of you guys have been to Lake Fork. Great. So one of the coves that everybody knows is, no secret, Glade gets good early. Glade Bay gets really good early. Well, you think about the way Glade sets up. It's this humongous, big, broad flat that has a bunch of water this deep. I mean, a bunch of water this deep to this deep. And the mouth of it's in the southeast corner and the back of it's in the northwest corner. This is the ideal situation of what I'm talking about. Big, broad, flat water, a whole lot of water that's 1 to 2 foot deep, and the sun, because the sun in the wintertime is further south. So in the early morning, that sun's going to hit that northwest corner first, because the sun's further south of us than it normally is. As we go throughout the year, the sun gets closer to us. Okay, so that northwest corner is going to get that sun the longest. It's going to hit it first. It's going to start warming the quickest. So when you can line everything up, and you can get flat, shallow water, a little bit of stain, a little bit of flow, a little bit of dirt content in the water, nice and calm and protected from these cold fronts like a northwest corner is, and then you get that sun angle on it, and you line all those things up, and then if you add a little bit of grass in there, I mean, you're set up for, this is exactly what we're talking about. Yep.
So are you chasing shallower water versus water temp, or are you chasing bait this time of year?
I'm more
shallower water and temperature versus bait.
Right, I get it. It's a tricky question because they're gonna correlate.
Right.
They're gonna correlate. So the more that the water temp warms up, the more the bait fish are gonna get in there, and the more the bass are gonna get in there. But yeah, to me, I'm paying more attention to areas that they're gonna spawn early. So these areas that will warm up quicker.
Yeah.
And I'm paying more attention to the water temps in those areas than I am the bait fish. But what happens is when you find those areas that they're going to spawn early, and you find those areas that are warming up quicker, the bait fish are going to be, they end up being there anyway generally. But I'm not necessarily going, well, this area has more bait fish than this area, because the closer we get to spawn, for these early spawning fish, and these fish, when they're spawning, bait is kind of irrelevant in a lot of ways, once they get on the bed. So as we get closer and closer to spawn, the less and less I'm so concerned with bait. Now, there is other fish, there's other fish that are further behind that won't spawn until April and May, that they're still on the main lake, and bait is all that matters for them this time of year. It's the only thing that matters. That swim bait deal, the only thing that matters is the bait fish. They can be on all different types of areas. They can be on points, creek bends, everything. But the bait fish is what those fish are on that bait that are on the main lake in the winter. So two different fish. There always is. Listen, year-round there's shallow water fish, year-round there's deep water fish on all these fisheries in Texas. We're so lucky to have all these fertile, full fisheries. They're just full of fish. And there's always options. I like shallow water fishing. I grew up in southeast Texas where all we had was shallow muddy water, so it's where I'm comfortable. And I've kind of learned a couple of these tricks that maybe get looked over through having, like if you fish a fishery that has nothing but shallow, dirty water, well in the wintertime, guess what you're fishing? Shallow, dirty water. And you kind of learn some things, and then you go to lakes that have options, you go, yeah, but I caught them in something that looked like this, and then you end up back there. And that's kind of how I stumbled on this deal at Lake Fork myself. I was just fishing what I knew from fishing dirty water, shallow fisheries growing up, so.
You ever consider it's blown out where it's too muddy?
it gets to a point, so here's the key on that. I don't consider it too dirty as far as the water color. It's pretty extreme for me to get to that point, but what I don't like is like the day after a really hard, just flowing rain, if there's debris all over the surface, I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Like as long as, it can be dirty stained water, but as long as there's not, you know, grasses and leaves and stuff from the bank and trash floating, I don't want that. To me, that's not a stable environment. Fish bite better in a stable environment. Whether it's cold water, hot water, or in between water, if it's been stable, the fish bite better. They get set up, they get more, I don't know if they bite better, but it's easier for you to get consistently to target them and pattern them if they've been doing the same thing for several days.
I went into Little Bay Monday and I thought it was blown out because it was just so thick.
That's an area that can get blown out because it washes a lot of debris in from Oil Bay, another area on Lake Fork that's way up the big east arm. It can definitely get blown out. A lot of flow comes through there. Glade, the back corner of Glade can get blown out. The thing about Glade that's cool is even when part of it gets blown out, it's such a big broad area, there's something in there that's clean. There's always a part of it that's clean. You can always kind of hunt it down if you look for it hard enough. So Glade's a unique deal, but yeah, Oil Bay can get blown out at times. And I imagine after that rain we had the other day, it probably was.
Are you working the creek channel back into Glade, working that area, trying to catch these fish that are pre-spawning?
So I'm kind of going to the back now. We've gotten to the time of year where I'm going straight to the back now. I'm working the channel edges within the backs. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So wherever those channel edges are within that big grass line in the back creek, I am, especially like on today. That's the other thing. Once these fish push back there on that warming trend, they're not leaving. So when you get a day like today, the last couple of days have gotten cold again, they'll suck back into those drains and creek channel edges and just kind of hunker down in there, and they get harder to catch. But if you've been catching them on that flat back there and then they pull back, you just have to stay after it, fish real methodical, real slow, use those reaction baits, bang those stumps around that creek channel as many times as you can and get a reaction bite. And then once you get a couple in the bite, you can usually catch a group of them in an area on those cold days. So think about this, another good tip for this deal. Warming trend, you might catch them one or two at a time. They'll spread out, get up on the flat. Cold trend, when you get a bite, hunker down and go slow. Because once you get a bite, there's more than one. If it's on a cold trend and those fish have been spread out, they've sucked back, there's always more than one. Always.
Yeah, it was 54 degrees yesterday back there.
Yeah. And the deal was the temperature is not nearly as important as the trend. That's the other big thing. So like 54-degree water is pretty good this time of year, but if it was 58 yesterday, you're going to have to grind on them. And then once you get them, they'll be in a group, but you got to grind on them. Whereas if it was 54 today and it's 58 tomorrow, boy, they're going to get them spread out and get after it. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, I think I have reached my time limit. It is time for everybody to go home. I went 2 minutes long. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. I love fishing, and I love all of you for listening to me talk about this. Thank y'all.
Amen.
Hey folks at home, this is Mr. Emmett. Do you watch your Lake Fork guys? You do? Do you like the bass fish? What's your favorite bait?
A jerkbait maybe?
Ronnie Kelly, you got some competition. Hey buddy, we appreciate you. You know that? Thank you for watching. You're awesome. Give me some knuckles. All right. Blowing it up. Well guys, I'm here with Mr. Monty from Fun and Sun Boats out here in Hurst,
Texas, yes.
Hurst, Texas. It's somewhere between Dallas and Fort Worth. I know that.
Right.
Closer to Fort Worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a deal they do every year out here in kind of mid to late January every year. Is that right?
Yes, it's in January sometime. We bounce around depending on what's going on in the marketplace.
Well, it's a great time of year because it seems like every year we come here, the weather's cold, raining, it's usually a little nasty. Today's beautiful. Yesterday was kind of nasty, but we always have the bad weather, and it's like good boat show weather.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Nobody wants to be that uncomfortable, so we come inside and hang out.
That's right.
It's all been good. Can't be fishing. We'll come here and talk about fishing. And you guys bring some of the biggest names in the business here every year. You got, in my opinion, the two very best boat brands, Skeeter and Phoenix, in the house. And y'all just do an amazing job. How long have y'all been doing this boat show?
This is our 10th year. We started this, like I say, 10 years ago, and it's grown every year. We started out with about 15 vendors and went to 20 and 25. And this year we've sold over 70 spaces. So it's full. I mean, I don't know how we get any more in here.
Y'all gonna have to blow the walls out or something.
I know it. Yeah, we're going to have to. But it's all been good, and everybody kind of works with us. And even though the spaces kind of get mixed and scooted around, and everybody just goes with the flow, and we try to do the best we can to get everybody the ample space. And there's so many different vendors this year. We've got so many different products that you don't see on the shelves, and so it's been very cool for everybody.
It's always really cool. It's something I look forward to every year. I get to see people I only see once a year sometimes from all over the state of Texas inside the industry. And like we said, some of the biggest things, like Brandon Polnick is right behind us right now. Aaron Martin's just walked past us. Like, these are legends of the sport, and you come and hang out. And it's a really cool opportunity for fans of the sport to get down here to Fun and Sun. A, you're going to get to see some tackle you wouldn't see anywhere else. B, you're going to get to hear a lot of knowledge get passed from some of the greatest minds in the business. And you can have the opportunity, like right now, there's a young man talking to Brandon Polnick behind this camera at this moment as we speak. And you can walk up to these guys who you look up to, who you're a fan of, meet them, talk to them, pick their brain, ask them questions. And it's so cool because the one thing is I found over the years, all these guys are they just love fishing too. And they'll talk to you about all of it. It's a really neat opportunity, and I really appreciate you putting this together every year, y'all putting this together, because it provides a unique opportunity for, listen, I make my living in the business, but before of all of that, I just love to catch another fish. Like, I just want to catch the next fish.
Absolutely.
And I never stop thinking about it. And then you put a whole bunch of people in the building that are of the like mind. It's such a cool experience being here, just meeting random people and meeting the big names and all that. So
yeah, these guys, all the pros, are very good about sharing knowledge. I mean, they'll tell you. We had Aaron March here. He's been here every year for the last 2 or 3 years, but the first year he was here, he sat down for over an hour and showed guys how to tie knots.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that? Who's going to take the time to do that? These guys all will do that. They're so good at it.
They love it. They're obsessed with it. They're very appreciative of the people that want to take the time to talk to them.
Absolutely.
And it's just an awesome deal. So, man, is there anything else you want to get out to the viewers about information on this event?
Man, I tell you, if there's anybody out there that's making your own baits or have a small company, this is kind of the platform we use to help people grow into something that you'll see on the shelves in the future. Some of these guys are making the spinner baits and jigs out of their garage, and those are the kind of people we're looking for to help them see if we can't get their name out there, get the product, a little exposure, and come get a spot from us next year. We'll scoot a little more, and we'll find a way to get everybody in here. But yeah, and come down and enjoy the show. It's a family deal. We want everybody to come out, bring the kids, and just have fun.
Yeah, and one thing for sure, if you're looking for a brand new bass boat, there ain't no better place in DFW to come find it than right here. You got the two best brands in the same house. We're sitting here leaning up against one of these fine FXRs that just came out. These suckers are bad to the bone. Phoenix is real good in their own right. And I know you guys, between you and Fane and everybody up here, y'all do a great job of taking care of people. So y'all, come see my boy Monty up here at Fun and Sun. Monty, thank you, sir.
To go, and the deal was, I was swimming a white jig on boat docks. The water was so clear I could see 10 or 12 feet deep. I was in the dirtier water of the lake. I could still see 10 or 12 foot deep, and I downsized that minnow scrub, and because I wanted it, I didn't want all that action, because I was having a lot of them. They could see it so well, they would chase it and not get it, run it all the way to the boat and never bite it. And I was having to reel it at a really high rate of speed to make them get it, and I needed that downsized trailer. Or when I know they're feeding on smaller bait, I like the minnow scrub. And it basically has a similar action to the rage crawl, but it's tucked in tight. Now that rage crawl looks big, even the regular one, it's really not that big a bait, but the legs spread out on it and it commotions so much water, it has a big profile. Another one of my favorites. He asked what I thought about Lake Texoma. I've only been to Lake Texoma one time, and it was a very strange situation. It was 6 foot high when we got there, and by the time we fished the first day of the tournament, it was 9.5 feet above normal, and it was perfect. And I won flipping a 1 ounce jig, out in deep trees. They were suspended in the trees, so I don't really I hear a lot of horror stories about Texoma. It's Jekyll and Hyde. One of my best friends, he's fished there, a couple times a year his whole life and has never seen it that high in the whole time he's ever fished there. And we roll up there, and it was, really special conditions. So I don't really I can't give you a great opinion about Texoma. It was great one week.
No, it's a love-hate relationship. I grew up on it. I mean, I'm an hour and 15 minutes from it, but I consider that more my home lake. It's the one lake that I've been to that you can go down a stretch and just smash them, come back for the next 10 years and never get a bite off of it.
I have heard that about it.
It's very bad about that. I don't understand why. For instance, one fall, I won 2 or 3 championships off of a 50-yard stretch, and that was 10 or 12 years ago. I think I've caught 2 fish off that stretch since then. I mean, and it doesn't make sense. I don't know if it's stripers push it around, but like you're talking about the Texas Park and Recreation getting the fish out and they putting them into these lakes. Texoma now it's 8, 9, 10 pounder for big bass. Every time you turn around, it's taking 25 to 30 pounds to win, and it's really helping. But yeah, Texoma, it's got them in.
I remember like back several years ago where 10 pounds was a big stringer there.
Yeah.
Not a 10-pound bass, 5 that weighed 10 pounds.
First open I ever fished there, it took 27 pounds to win in 3 days.
For 3 days.
Yeah, it was brutal tough. It was some fluke happened in the fall. But
yeah, I'd heard that, but we just, it was one of those deals, perfect timing. We hit the nail on the head when we
all hit it good.
What was that stretch you had to get any one of those tournaments?
Well, there's a lot of them on that one.
Well, honestly, I think so, yes. He asked if color was critical deep cranking. And so this is the deal. Some of it's here. It's so funny, if you have confidence in a color or a bait or whatever, you will fish it in a way to get a bite. But again, these fish get fished for so much now. I think color is more important now than it's ever been before. And the deal is fishing deep like that, depending on the watercolor, sometimes something chartreuse, whether it's blue and chartreuse, black and chartreuse can be the deal. And then there's other situations where you want to use a transparent color like green gizzard, because they can see so well. But yes, another thing that I feel like is really important deep cranking, rattles versus no rattles. It seems like, to me personally, if you find a school of fish that hadn't been fished for out deep, the rattle is the deal. If you find a school of fish, because now these electronics are so good, it's hard to find a school like, I found those at the Mississippi River, and the reason for it, because nobody was looking for them. But on these lakes where they look for the deep fish, that's the most pressured to me, that's the most pressured fish on the lake. So it seems to me now that, say, a crankbait with a rattle is good on fish that hadn't seen it, or they're good early in the season when they first get out there, or when the water's still cold. But once it gets hot in the summertime and they've been out there a while, and they've heard everybody's electronics and seen everybody's plug, that the silent crankbait seems to produce 10 times better than the one with the rattle. And again, it can go back, I've done this before where I had one of each, and you catch 3 or 4 on that rattling bait and get them fired up at first, and then they quit. Then you got to put the silent one in there, and the silent one will go back. Like, you can keep, I've even seen it at Gunnersville where I was catching them, I caught 75 off a school one day on a Series 5. They weren't deep, like 10 foot. I go back there the next day, I throw that Series 5, and it's rattling. I throw the Series 5 in there, throw it in there, throw it in there, throw it in there. I never get a bite. I pick up a plug, it doesn't have a rattle in it. I had an old wooden plug, a deep running one. I picked it up, it's like I was throwing live bait. I caught them every cast again. But it just seems like it fits just like the lipless bait. They get acclimated so much quicker now with fishing pressure, to rattles, and it seems like if I could only choose one, I'd choose the silent one, because the ones that hadn't seen it bite it and the ones that have seen it bite it. So. Yeah, it's called a bladed jig, thunder cricket. I really believe, honestly, that's one of the reasons that a bladed jig has been so good the last, So one way that Strike King has got around that, we still make a regular red-eye shad, but we also make the 2-tap that only has one knocker. Instead, it doesn't shake like BBs. Something different, something just. And it can be just, and that's the deal. You can be fishing a school of fish, catching them one way, they quit. All you got to do is make a change. It might just be going from the one with the BBs to the one that only has the 1 tap in it. Just making that change. But go back, I got off the sub. I feel like Aaron Martin's up here. I'm talking around in a circle. But I do think color is the number one thing, because if it looks natural, they're going to bite it. I'm big on anything that looks, I'll do that when I'm flipping, and I'm flipping one color. If I catch something, one's got something in his mouth, even if I just got bit on this color, if I see what he's eating, I'll change to whatever he's eating, because I'm like, I know that's the right color, Was that an earlier question that I didn't answer, or was that the question about where I liked in Texas? I like Ray Roberts. I will be honest with you. I had a really, last time we were there, I had a really good tournament. I had on, I thought, one of the biggest fish I've ever had on my life. And then I was there another time, and it was terrible. To me, it kind of has that Texoma deal where it's not good every day. It is for some people, but I mean, and I don't know if that. It seemed like the last time I fished there, the fish number was a lot better in it. The first time I fished there, it didn't seem like it had. So this is the deal. The tournament there that I did bad, the deal was I lost one over 10 at the boat. Was the only reason I did bad, but I didn't get many bites. You know, and I would have finished a lot higher than the one I did good in. I lost one over 10 the last day. It's just one of them rare places. It's got those monster fish in it. To answer your question, I like Ray Roberts.
Go ahead. 11, 12's my largemouth, and right around 7's my smallmouth.
I caught a 7.3 at Erie in the Bassmaster, and the biggest tournament fish I ever caught, I caught it at Falcon. No, I caught it at Amstead, 11.11. I caught 11.7 at Falcon, the biggest fish I ever caught fishing. I caught a 12.8 on the Arkansas River.
That fish was lost.
It used to be, honestly, like, so I grew up on the lower part of the Arkansas River. There were 3 15-pounders caught. You know, the state record in Arkansas 3 times was caught on the Arkansas River on the lower end. It was phenomenal how good it was.
Yeah.
Picachos. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going there free of charge. I mean, that comes back to that blessing, you know, of fishing has allowed me to do a lot, you know, has allowed me to go to a lot of great places fishing. But we have a writer's deal there in March, and I got invited to go, and so I'm looking forward to it. I hear a lot of good things about it. No, I've been to Mexico a couple times. Zona and I filmed there on El Salto. And I've been to Mexico deer hunting, and hopefully a bucket list trip. I want to go to Sonora and mule deer hunt in Sonora, Mexico. I love Mexico. Now see, I won't talk unless there's a question. I get Aaron back up here. Where Aaron's at? He slipped off somewhere eating an orange. Or some granola.
No, he's braid man on that one, wasn't he?
No, I was braid 100%.
Who was?
Casey Ashley.
Yeah, Casey Ashley said.
Casey Ashley was flipping fluorocarbon in that deal. I've never caught one with ears. I mean, I'm just saying. I do feel like they feel vibration. It's just like that deal with the crankbait. Doop, doop, doop. I have been snorkeling before, you know, and tap rocks together. And every summer we would go to Lake Washita and spend 2 weeks and up in the mountains, oxygen cleared. And fishing I thought was terrible then. And but I could go out there and get 2 rocks and tap them together. It wouldn't be a second to be 3 or 4 bass swim up there. But to answer your question, I've heard that. I've even had guys tell me when we go to Florida that they thought when they were flipping mats around a group of people that they got more bites flipping fluorocarbon. I ain't never had that. Never had that. I don't, you know, I know what you mean. They hear that, you know, whatever, but I'm like, really?
People going on their head quick enough, they don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. And I catch a lot, you know, a lot of times, you know, cold weather situations where you got to yo-yo it up and down, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, that deal that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know that I would have won at, because I watched Casey fish. I watched that I enjoyed watching that footage, so I watched it a couple times. But, you know, I noticed like a couple of those big ones that he caught, they were just on big willows, the big clean willows, and he was just flipping the base of them. I really didn't catch any like that. Like the ones I caught came out of the bush. I mean, you know, I mean, like right through the middle of it. So I'd be afraid of, you know, I don't know, like there are situations where I flip with fluorocarbon because I need stretch. Maybe the way they're getting it, because I feel like I can rip the bait out of their mouth. But most of the time flipping heavy cover with a jig, only time I've ever had situations flipping heavy cover and I couldn't stick them with braid just because they weren't getting it good and I had to go to fluorocarbon, it's always with a piece of plastic. I've never run into that situation with a jig. So I'll be honest with you, in practice for that deal, so I would never get hung, I flipped that slither rig. Strike King slither rig deal, you know, which was the insert, but that thing I don't have a lot of luck with it catching them. But it was easy to shake them off. I never had to, and I never get hung, and I just go and go and go and go and go. So I come back during the tournament, I just flipped a 1 ounce hack attack jig, and you know, because I knew I could stick them all. You know, I'd have to be a little gentler because them bushes were solid, they were deep, solid limbs, you know, easing that big jig up through there. But I knew when one bit me. Now, with that being said, the last day I lose 2. I lost a 6-pounder. I was fixing to swing, it completely swallowed it. I must have had skin hooked. He jumped. He came at a bad angle, and I couldn't swing him straight. And I went to swing back, and he came off. And I had another 5-pounder in a dead willow. I jerked him out of the water, you know. But that's the biggest reason. If I can get by using a jig, I don't use plastics. But why he was, you know, again, you know how fishermen are. They're head cases. So as long as, you know, I had confidence in Braid, and he felt like he needed to be, and he did well, you know. But but again, did that cost him? Because I also watched Swindle's footage in that, and it was horrific. I mean, he just hung up, broke off, and he was flipping with fluoro, and he was having a lot of issues, you know. But other than those 2, I'd have caught the biggest bag of the event the last day. It didn't matter, but I didn't know that at the time. But you know, but I just felt like Braid was catching more for me, you know. I mean, maybe I didn't get as many bites as he did, but as long as I catch all of them, you know, it doesn't matter. So a lot of times that's what it comes down to. It's not necessarily, it's who's the most efficient that, you know,